Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to another episode of Gills in the Blood TV. And as you can see from the gentleman on my screen, is of course episode 18 of Gills in the Pub with myself, Jack and Reece. Last episode was recorded on the 24th of September 2025. And yeah, guess where Gills were? Top of the league. Sun was out, we were playing well. Um, it's Groundhog Day,
Groundhog Day.
isn't it, gents? There we go.
Hey!
Jinx. Do you want to say it as well, Reece? It really is, though, isn't it? Like, we can sit here and try and joke about it because otherwise you go a bit mad trying to fathom it out and all that type of thing. But we've just said before we press record, we could literally just upload the episode we did at this time last season, change the names, and it's not going to be any different, really, is it?
No, it's quite depressing, and I don't I don't know if we've become part of the problem because it seems like a season starts, and every time we do our first one of the season, we like fall into this trap of being positive, and then it's sort of like within a game of that we stop winning, and then maybe this one will be like the turning point, and it will flip it the other way, and we'll start winning from this weekend. But
I
we
mean,
left it too late.
to add to that, I think, Jack, I think you made the point a few episodes ago. I said that every time we advertise an episode, we lose the following Saturday, and that has followed suit again. Because I don't want to talk about Oldham too much, but we were absolutely horrific for 90 minutes.
Yeah, it weren't very good, mate. Was it? Yeah, maybe we should stop doing these. I don't know. Do you know what the thing, right, is for me? I know a lot of people probably class me as being maybe negative or realistic, should we say? But that was the most positive I've ever been on one of these episodes, and look where it got me. So I'm going to revert to type on this episode, I think, because there's no
That's absolutely
positivity at the
fine.
moment.
And maybe when the retained release list comes out at the end of the season, you might just see Gills in the pub in little letters at the bottom. But that'll probably annoy someone anyway. I joke. Let's get into the episode. Yes, like I said, 24th of September was the last time we sat down to speak, the three of us. Gills had played 9 league games, won 6, drawn 3, hadn't lost a game. They'd scored 15, conceded 6, and had 21 points at a staggering 2.33 per game. And we were top of League Two. Since then, we've played a 23 further games. We've won just 4. We've drawn 8 and lost 11. Scored 25 but conceded 35. We've taken just 20 points at 0.87 per football match. And we are now in 16th in League Two, just one place above where we finished last season. Jack, I'm going to come to you. I've written a question down. At the risk of repeating ourselves, is it too simple to say that these ongoing multi-season issues have to be on the players now, given so many have been here for so long? And I have, once I've spoken to you before I go to Reece, got a list of players that have been here since certain seasons.
Do you know what, mate? I was actually going to ask that question to help with my answer. So it might be worth potentially reading out those names. But is it solely on the players? No, everyone's got to take collective accountability. It's not just on the players. Gareth Ainsworth's a good manager, I think. If you look at his history as a football league manager, he's, bar QPR, he pretty much does well at most places. So I'm loath to say he's the problem, although he's not helping himself at certain points.
That's fair.
I think someone who gets a very free pass from the fans because of his legendary status is Hess. I think it's a lot of it's on the players. They're the ones who cross the white line at the end of the day, and they're the ones that can only really affect things right this second. But the recruitment consistently seems to be off, doesn't it? I can't believe that we're going to go into this summer and give Heston Thaler the keys to another season of recruitment or another summer of recruitment. I know that Ainsworth supposedly has more say in it these days. None of us know how much so. But I'd be amazed that we will allow him to bring in more players or recommend more players, because he's the common denominator in every single season for me. I love the bloke, but I feel like if you're going to consistently chop players and consistently chop managers, why are you not looking at the one thing that we seem to be not be getting right consistently?
No, that's fair enough. And obviously we'll talk about recruitment further on in the episode, but let's concentrate on the players for now, Reece. And let's go through that list. So since the relegation season, Robbie McKenzie has been there for every campaign, including and up to now. Since 22-23, which was our first campaign in League Two, Glenn Morris, Jake Turner, Connor Masterson, Ethan Coleman and Robbie McKenzie all played a part in that season. 23-24, which was Harris, Millen and Clements. Morris, Turner, Hutton, Ogie, Clark, Masterson, Coleman, McKenzie, Jay Williams and Josh Andrews all played some part in that season, some more than others. And since last season, the list is Morris, Turner, Hutton, Gale, Ogie, Clark, Andy Smith, Masterson, Coleman, Cambenny, E. Williams, McKenzie, Rowe, Little, Jay Williams, Wiley and Andrews. You may notice there is not one person that I've put in there, and that is not to, show favouritism towards him. I've excluded Bradley Dack from that list because he barely featured in that season when he first come back to the club. He said he was fit, other people said he wasn't. But he's so far away from being part of the problem at the moment that I don't think he needs talking about in this conversation, does he, Reece?
No, I don't think so. And it's funny, because obviously you've gone through them individually there, but in my notes, I had a look earlier and put down that we've got 10 players that have played a part in each of 23, 24, 24, 25 and 25, 26. And to the sort of the general question, are the players the problem? If I suppose Jack's right that, it's that there is portions of blame at varying levels, but if you strip football back to its simplest form, and I think that's a big part of football nowadays, is that it's become a game that's become very, very overcomplicated, in my opinion. And if you strip the game back to what it is, it's 22 players kicking a bag of air around. So whilst they may not entirely be the problem, they have to be a damn bloody significant part of it, because, like Jack says, nobody has more control over results and performances than the people that cross that white line playing the game. And I do agree with you. People like Dack are included, and to be honest, even to a lesser extent, some of the ones that maybe joined last season, it's maybe still not quite a big enough sample size. But for there to be 10 that have played in each of the last 3 seasons under 6 different managers and have seen all 3 seasons take the exact, and we're not even exaggerating it, the exact same path, it cannot be a coincidence.
No, and back to Jack's point, it's almost like chicken and egg situation. The players are poor, but who bought the players? And then the last set of players were poor, but who brought the players in?
Yeah, and obviously before it, and that's the thing. Like, we'll move on to Ainsworth separately in a minute, but that's something that when we keep moaning about the players at the moment, people are going, "Well, we gave a couple of this lot contracts in the summer," and that for me is kind of the point that sums up a lot of these players. That I think it's a harsh stick to beat Ainsworth with, because he come in, took the job, we didn't lose a game for the rest of the season.
So if he'd released all of them players,
what is he to do?
He'd have got moaned at, yeah.
And that for me is kind of the point that sums up a lot of this lot, that they play on their terms when they want, and generally them terms are when we can play games without floodlights having to come on. That's how it seems.
Or we need a new contract.
Well, there's no pressure on them.
Exactly that, and that is it. And we talk about the 21 game unbeaten run, and we will talk about it just for some positivity in the episode. But you mentioned it. It would have been better if it was 21 games in the same campaign. You said that in the last episode, Jack. Doing 9 games and then 12 games this season has equated to absolute diddly squat in terms of tangible success now, has it? It's great. We might all have a poster on our wall because we printed one after we'd gone to Newport and won 3-1. We haven't got a promotion or a trophy to show for it.
No, I think it's a bit of a mental thing, mate. It's probably partly mental, partly physical, right? I think there's certain deficiencies that squad has, which I put down to recruitment broadly, not bringing in good enough players. But then there's a mental element of it to me as well. Like, Ainsworth says players will leave it out there on the pitch for me. I don't think they're doing that for him at the moment. And what I said on the last episode was I thought that the main difference between previous campaigns or previous managers and Ainsworth is they genuinely seem to have bought into him and were trying their best for him. And I feel like that's sort of waning a little bit. And I don't know if that's down to Ainsworth or not. I feel like it's not. He looks after him a lot. So there's that. They're not grafting hard enough for me anymore. They're not doing the bare basics. And I've said it on previous episodes in previous seasons, like it is Groundhog Day, that confidence they're such a confidence-driven team. I find it amazing. That came out the other day and said most footballers are. And I do take some sympathy from that because, I manage a sales team and one of my guys at the moment is underperforming, bless him, but he has been brilliant in the past and he is low on confidence. But he's got that, that self-awareness to get himself out of it. And he does when he's having a bad patch. And I just feel like these guys just constantly just keep dropping and dropping and dropping off every time they have a bad result. There's just no belief in that team. And it doesn't matter what manager there is, that doesn't seem to change. So you have to kind of look at it and say, well, are the managers are all of them crap? Are none of them good enough? I don't think they are. Like that, all of them have been good enough once upon a time as managers in their careers in some form. That's why they've been given the job here. So for me, it has to fall on the players. What I don't think helps is they don't have a settled team or a settled formation, which is probably coming on to Ainsworth a little bit. But I think in the most part, it does land on the players' heads.
To strip it back to what Reece said about making football the simplest form, and I do agree to an extent that football has become overcomplicated. We look at, I mean, I love a stat, you know that anyone who watches me knows that. But is it maybe just a case, Reece, that these players are at their ceiling? We're looking at recruitment, and we're looking at Hesse maybe not getting it right, Joe Comper maybe not getting it right, Gareth getting some bits wrong in recent weeks, which I don't think is entirely unfair at all. In fact, I think it's very fair what I've seen in the last few weeks. Is it just simply a case of that so many of this group are at their absolute maximum that no manager's going to get any more out of them now?
Quite possible. It's quite possible, especially the ones that have been here sort of 2-3 years. That's you're looking at what some of them might have played best part of 100 games over that period. So it's not a small sample to pick from. And yeah, I suppose if we went through the squad and said how many do we think could play at the level above, there probably wouldn't be loads. Not at the moment anyway. We've probably got some that in time might be able to, but in terms of here right now today, there's probably not too many. So that I don't think that's you or us for a second saying that 16th is about where we should be. It absolutely isn't. But I do take the point that there probably is a ceiling that some of the players are already at. And obviously, we don't want to go on to recruitment too much at the moment. But obviously, we signed in the summer more experienced players of ages that naturally means they're not going to be at the peak of their powers anymore. So I don't know. There could be an element to that.
Something to think about. Is there a case to say that any of them could play at the level above now? The obvious one, Jack, is Dack because of his ability, but obviously the thing that holds him back is still the fact that he's had 2 massive knee injuries in the last few years. So maybe a League One side or a Championship side just wouldn't take a punt on him anymore.
I'm looking at the team on Wikipedia, and I would probably say out of that entire squad, Masterson, but he's always injured. I say always is a harsh, but constantly injured at the moment. Probably Mackenzie, Dack, and Hale are the only ones for me that could play at a higher level, other than Johnny Smith, who's not ours. And then you could maybe make the argument of Johnny Williams and Sam Vokes, but I think they're past their peak. So for me, it's Masterson, Mackenzie, Hale, pretty much. I'd say Gale even at the moment. He's not playing well at the moment, to be fair. But I get
to go back to Reece's point, I think he's probably the one with the most potential that could go the highest later on in his career. Like you say, none of them are showing enough at the moment. So yeah, it's very minimal, is what we're trying to say. And yeah, it definitely is a combination of certain things, but we just can't get away from the fact that when so many of these players have done it to so many football managers, and we don't want to mention, Reece does want to mention Neil Harris.
You can't not though. If we're being really honest,
of course you're not.
And and
we got absolutely caned for saying that it was the wrong decision at the time. And they're second in the league.
Some of the stuff I read about Ainsworth now are the exact same criticisms that the same people were labelling about Harris. He's tactically inept. His football's crap. He'll never have a successful in this league. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that he walks away with a title in his hands in a month's time.
And how ironic is it we get another striker who can't score goals and he'll end up with a promotion medal again. Tom Nichols jumped up, got promoted. George Lapsley left us, got promoted. Elliot Nevitt's going to leave us, get promoted.
Yeah.
Mental. Absolutely mental. Anyway, let's talk about our manager. Is it fair to say that we all think he's got things wrong, certainly in recent months and weeks, which I think is probably a byproduct of the team not playing well, the team not winning enough football matches? Your head becomes scrambled. And we've said that about this squad doing it to Mark Bonner, John Coleman, Stephen Clements, Neil Harris. But do we also all agree that we have to stick with him and that sacking him will serve no positive purpose at this stage?
If I can go on that one.
Of course you can.
look, if we weren't in the midst of what, 5, 6 managers, I think there'd be more of a stronger conversation going on now than there is at the moment, right? So he is lucky that it would be pretty ludicrous to get rid of another manager. But he's certainly doing things wrong in some parts at the moment. We can't get away from that. But to your question, would it be silly to get rid of him? I think so, because the majority of this squad, and people will say, look, he signed some of them and he kept some of them last summer. The majority of this squad probably isn't his. So for me, he needs the summer, like we didn't give a lot of other managers, to butcher that squad and make it his own. What he needs to do is that, though. And part of my frustration with Ainsworth is he's too trusting. It appears publicly of the players that he's got. You see in his interviews, he seems like one of the lads rather than an authoritarian figure. Whether that's different behind closed doors, I don't know. But there's always the boys are doing well, I trust them kind of vibe. And he's not getting that repaid back to him. And I worry that he's just being taken the piss out of a little bit by the players.
Reece, what do we think on that? Because we're talking about a manager here that was in charge of a football club in Wycombe Wanderers for about a decade or so and got promoted to the Championship. So to disagree with Jack, I suppose, is the best word. I don't think you'd get away with being one of the boys and have that success, is my point. So where do you stand on it? For me, I think it's just he does that publicly. And I think they've probably taken a bit of a hiding verbally at the weekend, certainly.
Yeah, I do, and it'll be interesting to see, obviously, this weekend if there are any changes that would reflect that. But I agree with Jack in the sense that and the three of us probably fall into this category as well. That there's managers that have gone by in the last 3 or 4 years that probably, if they had the run of form Ainsworth had, we'd probably be sitting here saying they should lose their job. But I think it does come to a point where over the last 3 years, it's so many managers that at some point you have to strip it back and go, it can't just be them. It cannot just be them. And, we're not going up this season and we're not going down this season. No. I've seen people suggest it after Saturday, can we still get relegated? No, we can't. No, we won't. So what does it achieve other than bringing another financial burden onto the football club to sack him now? Or even in the
summer. And my worry as well is that if that happens, the same cycle repeats itself of the players hoodwinking another manager.
Absolutely. I tweeted that at the weekend.
We've gone through Harris, Millen, Clement, Bonner, Coleman, now Ainsworth, all these managerial changes in the grand scheme of things, obviously in isolation periods like the unbeaten run, but in the grand scheme of things from then to now, absolutely nothing has changed. With
one place,
6 different managers.
Positionally, it's one place. We finished 17th in that first season under Harris, and we're 16th now.
Not to so much defend Ainsworth, because he is doing things wrong at the moment, and the results aren't good enough. We can't get away from that. But from day one, and whether this is just him trying to protect himself from the start or not, I don't know. Only he will know that. But from day one, he said that this was going to take time. He's never promised the playoffs this season, whether that's partly because internally, the day he took over, everyone behind the scenes knew that he was going to disappear for 3 months this season. And I don't think, and I think that is being forgotten about a little bit, that, people saying he's been here a year now and nothing's changeable. He hasn't really, because...
Well, I've got some stats for in a minute, once you finish, Reece, that the record we have with him physically in the dugout.
Yeah, it's very different to if you look at it overall, in the grand scheme of things, including games that he wasn't at. And, I think we have to look beyond the manager now and look, and this isn't me saying this is Brad and Shannon's fault, because it absolutely isn't. I feel really sorry for him. But in their time here, apart from, even going back further than that, apart from the initial 6 months when Brad and Shannon come in and we won a lot of games to get ourselves out of trouble, we've been unsuccessful since 2021, 2022. So that is essentially a 5-year period now where, in a just call it what it is, losing has become a big part of this football club's culture. And I don't think that's easy to shift. And I don't think that mentality throughout an entire football club can just change overnight. I think probably some of us have at times fallen into that trap, probably us as well, thinking it's all right, we'll sign 6 or 7 players and it will fix it all. And I think the reality what we're seeing now is that that isn't the case. And I think for us to try and get over that and start turning the tide, the first thing we have to try is a little bit of stability. And I think the manager is one of them things at the moment that, if we get to December next season and we're still in the same place now, then that conversation will realistically have to be had. But for now, I think we just have to, the club have labelled it a 2-year project. The only people that look silly if we don't follow that through are the people making the decisions, especially on the back of so many managerial changes up to now. So we have to stick with it. Do I think he is still the right man? Absolutely. I think whether people like it or not, whether it was to earn contracts or not, some players that have been here for 2 or 3 years did pull the wool over his eyes at the back end of last season, probably to earn himself a new contract. And I think if he hadn't at Christmas time, I think he has very much now realised that. And you can see with some of the emissions that have been from the squad the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks, your likes of OG, your likes of Williams, it's clear that he is realising that some of these players here are not for him and not going to be up to the job of trying to take us to that next level. So in a nutshell, I wouldn't say talk of sacking him is ridiculous because, like I say, with the form, any manager in that kind of form, I can understand people mentioning it, but the prospect of it happening for me at the moment is ridiculous.
Well, you say that, but I wouldn't. I'm sat here every day wondering if he's going to get sacked because of the past form with Brad and Shannon, right? And this will be the first time I probably would mildly slate them, and we've done this before in the past. But I'm going to amaze myself by sticking up for Scally here, right? But if Scally was in charge, we would have kept hold of a lot more of their managers for a lot longer than we've currently done with others. And whether that's the right call or not is for another day potentially. But the reason we're sat here contemplating whether he's going to lose his job is because they've got past form and they've pulled the trigger very, very early on people. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility. I think from my perspective, I would just urge them to think twice and actually see through and at least giving him 2 years. And you make a fair point, Reece. I've noted down the operation won't have helped him. I'm sure, Matt, you'll present some data in a second, but the slide started after he left. Right, so as far as I'm aware, I could be wrong there. But
we lost his last game. That was the first game we lost all season, and then from then it just
And then
we didn't play badly in that Harrogate game. It was a bit of a freak one that we lost 1-0.
Wasn't it the game wasn't it that and Cheltenham? We had like 40 shots on target, 40 shots in total in between over the 2 games, and ended up with a last-minute equaliser against Cheltenham to show.
Yeah, it was from MK. It was from MK Dons, wasn't it, that it started to unravel.
Do you know what? I've got to actually on the point of whether it's the players or not. Just to go back to that point very quickly, you just said there about having 40 shots on target across them games. Would we have had that with other managers? No,
it wasn't on target. It wasn't on target. Christ, that'd be ridiculous. But yeah, 40 shots at goal, we wouldn't have. That'd have taken us 6 months probably.
It's still the same even now, and it's not an excuse for the results. But in the last month, we've lost 4-1 at home and 3-0 at home to Bromley and Oldham, and we could quite feasibly have scored 3 or 4 in them games ourselves. Which it's not a good thing, obviously, but it's the ones that when I do see people say we haven't improved at all since Ainsworth coming, I think technically from league position, yes. True, but in terms of, I think if you just watch us on the eye, I think we do carry more threat now. And obviously, whether that translates to goals is a different story. But you'd like to think people like Hale were gradually going to be the fix to that solution over a longer period of time.
That for me is partly why I worry that it is the players, though, and probably agree with that sentiment because look, it doesn't matter how many shots we have at the moment, we still can't seem to score a goal, right? So he has got them to a certain degree grafting more. They've returned back to type in recent times, and they're not doing so as much as they once were. But the one thing he's got them doing is he's actually trying to attack, and they're still not scoring goals in regularity versus the XG of what they should be producing. So you have to just go back to the players again in that regard.
Yeah, I think, and to look at both your points, yeah, we still don't score enough. We're missing too many chances. I'd say the Oldham one and the Bromley one, Reece, there's probably an element of that, though, that Oldham and Bromley are playing in second gear with the handbrake on when we have our best spells in the game, and the game's essentially dead. But yeah, I think if you go back to that Bromley game, I think Grant Smith made about 3 really good saves. I think he made 2 from Hale, and there was 1 maybe from Dack, and then the first save from Hudson at the weekend is ridiculous, which is the game is still in the melting pot. Then if that goes to 2-1, the little deflected effort. But yeah, we've gone from a team that doesn't create or score to creating some and not hitting the target. We're now at least hitting the target a bit more. So maybe, in about 5 years, we'll be top of the league and scoring regularly every week. But small steps and all that. What has he got wrong? in recent weeks. So just to finish up on Gareth Ainsworth, I think there's been a lot of talk about his starting 11s. We bought Ronan Hale. That's been one of the conversations as a centre forward. We've played him off the left. I know he's scored a couple of goals and he's had good chances, so we're not denying that. But I don't get this argument about he can't play as a centre forward because he's not a big lump. Like I don't buy into that at all. He played most of his games for Ross County as a centre forward. He wasn't suddenly a foot taller up in Scotland, and he scored 25 goals over a season and a half in a really poor team. So with what you said, Reece, about we're not going up and we're not going down, and I think the other Reece, German Gills Reece, put up a really interesting post on the weekend and said that if we win 1-0 at Barrow, with a very definition of a lower mid-table side, we'd have won 11, drawn 11, lost 11, scored 41, conceded 41. Like, you couldn't be any more miserable and mid-table than that if you tried. But I'll come to you first, Reece. What could Gareth be doing better that he's potentially got a little bit wrong? And again, we understand it because these players have scrambled the brains of numerous managers over the last few years.
I think I do, and this probably comes into what you said about Hale. I do think he's over reliance on playing that big physical number 9. Probably hasn't helped us at times because, Hale could play up front on his own, depending on whether or not you're going to play the right way up to him. If you're going to play him up front on his own with how we played recently, just punting the ball up to him, then we probably won't have no joy. But if we play him up front on his own and we have McCleary from one side, we have Dack playing behind him, we have Antwi in the team who likes to get on the ball and try and make things happen.
Aaron Rowe on the other side potentially.
Give him a little bit of a different type of service, then I don't see why it couldn't work. It's really difficult, and this is where I feel for managers sometimes because we're in bad form. And one of the criticisms he's got at the moment is there's a lot of chopping and changing going on. But if he keeps putting the same team out in the same system and we keep losing games, the question is the criticisms isn't flexible enough. So it's really, really difficult. And what I would say is that I remember the last episode we did, obviously he'd had sort of 20 odd games by then. And I think one of the things we praised him about was that his use of subs was really, really good. That has abandoned him a little bit in recent times.
It's gone right the other way, hasn't it? Completely the other way compared to the start of the season. Like, if you look at the 2 Oldham games, Jack, as a polar opposite, if we remember going back to Boundary Park at the end of August,
I was there.
We had to withstand a lot of pressure. I think Joe Quigley missed a good chance. There was another lad, I think, missed a header at the start of the second half, which would have put us behind. But we stayed in the game. Made a couple of changes. I think Aaron Rowe, that might have been his first appearance. He come on, was positive. Sam Vokes come off the bench, won us the football match. You look at the changes we made against Oldham, and we've said it, not just Oldham, but games before then as well. Substitutions are not making us better at the moment, are they?
No, I've got quite a few things I think he's doing wrong, which does add up to not a good sort of, assessment, really. I mean, subs would be one. Playing players out of position. Playing players who aren't probably good enough. Like, he keeps backing Little at the moment. I don't think he's good enough to get in that team, to be honest. He's given them 2-3 a pass in the media. He said the other day, for instance, I didn't see Saturday coming. I worry if he means that, because I did. And I think we all did.
He also alluded to something and said, we got clapped off against Bromley because we had a real go. And I thought that was a bit weird as well, because I don't remember there being much of an applause against Bromley. And again, it comes back to the point about you having a go when you're 3-0 down. It means nothing.
No, I agree. And then the other thing would be, and this was related to recruitment, and this is tied in a bit to talking about January, but the fact that we didn't sign a winger in January, I find amazing that we didn't do that. We needed another one anyway, to be completely honest.
And he actually come out and said he was happy with the option. So it wasn't a case of we tried and couldn't get one in. He actually came out in an interview, I believe, and said, despite Johnny Smith's injury, I'm happy with the options we've got. And then ironically, even more, we've not seen Aaron Rowe since.
Clark and Hutton aren't wingers. They're barely wing backs. They are fullbacks for me. Decent ones at crossing, but they've got no pace. They aren't good enough to be wingers, right? So for me, I would play wingers. Rowe for me isn't good enough. Smith is constantly injured. McCleary is good enough on his day, constantly injured. I do not understand why we didn't bring someone in as a winger. And for me, a lot of the judgment of that team is that they don't have enough pace. We sorted that in the summer, and that's part of the reason we started the season so well. Smith and McCleary were a decent part, especially Smith, as to why we started the season so well. And part of the reason we're not doing so well is we have little pace in the team again. I'll circle back to that. So that's down to partly to recruitment and the manager. The players have their own attributes, right? They can't suddenly just get pace overnight. So they knew that was a problem potentially. And we all saw it in January. And on the last day, we all thought we were signing Amari Patrick. Why that didn't happen, whether it was actually going to happen or not, is another matter. But we all thought, yeah, that's a logical signing. And the reason we didn't is beyond me.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I know we have slightly different opinions on pace, so I'm not going to go over it again. I still say that the ball is the quickest thing. But yeah, if you've got pace in the side, it's a threat, regardless of whether that's an individual or moving the ball quicker. So can we become a quick football side, Reece? Like you said, if we do maybe change the approach and you get people in the side that are good on the ball technically, like, because I thought Antwi was decent when he came on, and I felt sorry for him. He's come in same as Hale. And we've been woeful since they arrived through no fault of their own. But I thought Cameron Antwi showed more than most of our central midfielders have in the last month in that half hour on Saturday afternoon. I know at the end he should have shot, but he didn't, and he passed to Andrews. But I thought he was bright. He was taking it into tight areas. He was running past his men. He was getting into good areas. He was being a threat. We've spoken about, everyone does it, favourite 11s. Is there not a case to say, like you said, that we play Ethan Coleman as the holding midfielder or someone else, because there are other holding midfielders available, I get that. And then you almost play a 4 in front of that holding midfielder and then Hale, so that you've got people that are better on the ball and better at picking out people higher up the pitch.
Yeah, because the thing is, some people argue to that is, well, it'll leave your midfield too open. Well, I've watched us play games recently with Coleman, Little, and McKenzie all in the midfield, and we've still been open,
And we've been
and we're
run
still
through,
letting
haven't we?
goals in.
Yeah.
So I don't really see, we let 4 in at home to Bromley, we let 3 in at home the other day. I don't really see that whether we play Coleman, Dack, and Antwi, or Coleman, Little, and McKenzie. The problem still seems to be the same. So why not do it having a go, letting Hal have a little run through the middle and see how he gets on. And maybe we might win a game 4-3 or something.
I was going to say, because you might win a game 4-3 instead of losing it 1-0, because you've got 3 of essentially the same midfielder in the middle of the park. And I mean that with the utmost respect to McKenzie, Coleman and Little, but they're not creative midfielders.
No, not remotely.
No.
Well, little tries, but we'll probably come on to that in a little bit.
Yeah, ME7 put something up that created some interesting debate over the last couple of days, and we'll get to that when we talk about the out-of-contract players. But to end on a bit of a positive with Gareth Ainsworth, we know that he missed 2 months.
2.5 months, I think. Yeah, 2.5 months.
So we said his last game was Harrogate, which was back end of September, and he was back in the dugout 8th of November, I think, when we won at Bristol Rovers. So yeah, month.
He wasn't even in the dugout for Bristol Rovers. He was upstairs.
Oh no, he was but he was at the pit. Sorry, he was at the ground. That's the point.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, not in the dugout. That was a few weeks later. His record since he's returned isn't good enough. So we can't sit here and say, oh, well, that's because of the heart surgery now and he was missing, because we won 4 games from 18 since he's got back into the stadium, the dugout, the grounds. We've drawn 7, lost 7, scored 21, conceded 27, 19 points at 1.05 per game, which is not good enough. It's relegation battle form. But his overall record, when involved in the football matches in the league since he took over, reads as much more positive, and I think this is a big reason why we have to persist with him. 36 games, we've won 13, drawn 16, lost just 7, scored 48 and conceded 41, taken 55 points at 1.53. So over a 46 game campaign, that would be 70 points, which in the last 2 seasons, ironically, would have you in 7th place.
How many have we drawn, mate, out of interest since he's come back? Because that's one thing I would say is it feels like we've drawn a lot. We don't. Like,
since he came back from heart surgery, 7 out of 18. Played 18, won 4, drew 7, lost 7. Overall, he's drawn 16 of 36. So there's a lot of draws. So we're still hard to beat generally, which we've always been, even in the darkest days of 22, 23. And then to break it down a bit further, 48 goals scored at 1.33 per game. In 22-23, we scored 36 at 0.78. 23-24, we averaged 1 per game. We scored 46 in 46. And last season, before he took over, we'd scored 31 in 37. So goal scoring's gone up, which goes back to Reece's point. We are more of a threat. We're creating more chances and we are scoring more goals. Whether it's championship level winning levels of scoring goals, probably not. And defensively, 41 goals conceded at 1.14. In 22-23, we conceded 49 at 1.07, so that was just less. 23-24, we conceded 57 at 1.24. And last season, before he took over, we conceded 50 in 37 games at 1.35. So
I would say there's still 3 months of the season left, though, 2.5 months. So that could get drastically worse, couldn't it?
oh, absolutely it could, but it could get better. We can only take it on what we've got at the moment. But I still think, whether we think it's as quick as we'd have liked, I still think Gareth Ainsworth is taking us in the right direction.
I think one of the crucial things here, I don't know if I quite agree with that, mate. He's not taking us in the right direction right this second, but he is overall, I think would be the point.
Mm-hmm.
I think I looked at the LMA list earlier at some of the people out of work. There's no one better than him on there, in my opinion. We'd have to dip in to find, nicking someone like an Andy, like he wouldn't take it, but Andy Woodman, for instance, or someone like that that's a better manager than him that's in work. Every other one that's out of work, some of the names just for me aren't better than him.
No. Reece.
The thing is, I suppose, obviously, in relation to his heart surgery, it doesn't he's had the time, whatever. It doesn't excuse the fact that at the moment we are not good enough. But I do feel for him in the sense that it's as if he's disappeared and he's probably come back and the place is on fire. Like the horse has bolted. But with what we've seen over the last 2 years with this team is that they start a season well. Once it goes wrong, it genuinely doesn't seem to recover. And that's obviously that has coincided with him disappearing. So he's probably come back and the place is already on flames, and it's probably quite a difficult situation for him to try and arrest in the middle of a season. And I mean, you touched on it. Sort of, you said about his head being I can imagine, because I can imagine that he's had a lot of sleepless nights thinking, how can I walk into a football club, have a 21-game unbeaten run, and then without even a period in between, that goes straight into 4 wins in 24 with the same team?
It's a confidence thing for me, mate. It's the confidence thing. It's mentally they're a confidence team, and
in which case, like you've said about sometimes he's too nice to the players. What more can he do about it himself?
Yeah, it goes back to about, because it makes me laugh when people criticise people for being outrun by an opposition player. Well, you can't make someone genetically quicker. Like, I get they can give themselves 5 yards and they can be intelligent and where they position themselves, but you can't be quicker than someone else if they're genetically faster than you from birth. So, similar to that, we keep coming back to the players, don't we, Jack? I think, as much as there are other factors, we totally get that. We keep coming back to the same answer, essentially.
Yeah, well, part of it's recruitment, mate, as what you've just said there, right?
Mm.
If they're not genetically faster, then sign genetically faster players. It's not hard, right? So that's the first thing. So I don't think attribute-wise the players are quite up to it enough when it comes to skill and technique, which means you've got to be the hardest working team in the division, which for the 21 games in the most part they were, which we heavily praised them for in the last episode. And they've not been that since. And in part, that's confidence. In part, it's probably bone idleness a little bit. They've proven it over the last 3 seasons that that's the case. So
I questioned it for the first time after Saturday again. That was the first time I questioned it and said, not down in tools, but as the intensity dropped off a little bit, because they know it's another season that's gone. So there's nothing to play for. So why am I going to risk getting injured if I might not be here next season, if I might have to be looking for another club? I don't want to go into a 50-50 or a 40-60 and pick up a mid-term injury that means I might not get a contract where I want next year.
And that's the thing. If you look at the goals we're conceding recently, which has been unlike us for most of Ainsworth's reign, set pieces. You concede from set pieces if you're being lazy. It's generally the only reason you concede from set piece, unless someone's a foot taller than you and they outjump you, and then you go fair enough. But that's not the goal. With the goals we concede from set plays are laziness.
Yeah, and Dacky made the point, didn't he, on Saturday, and said everyone has a bad game with the ball, but it's unforgivable if you had a bad game out of possession, because that just means you're not working hard enough.
Yeah. If I look at I'll circle back to my team, mate, as a sales team. There will be periods where my guys don't sell enough software, which you could class as not being good enough at times. But if they're doing all the right things, they're working hard, and they're trying to make their own luck, then I can forgive it. It's the ones that are lazy that I can't forgive, to be honest. And it's exactly the same premise with footballers. I just, yeah, for many, many years, I felt we've had a bit of a bone idle team mentally, which and physically and technique wise, they're not the best team in the league. They're decent and they're doing worse than their actual abilities, in my opinion. But the mental element drags them down even worse. So what I'd be wanting to sign in the summer is good players of technique in terms of pace and creativity, but people that actually will graft and give a shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair enough. Right, that leads us on to summer and January recruitment. In the summer, we brought in Lenny Serino, Andy Smith, Gareth McCleary, and Seb Palmer Holden on permanent deals. I know Andy Smith was here at the back end of last season on loan. And we signed Travis Ackermere and the now returned to Wigan Johnny Smith, unfortunately.
Be Sam Vokes as well.
On loan deals, and Sam Vokes. Sorry, yes, that is a very good point. Well done. Paying attention. I like that. Top of the class. Giving me self-service pumps.
Ah, you got it instead of me.
There we go. Yeah. And in January, we brought in Cameron Antwi, Ronan Howe, and Omar Beckles on permanent deals. We've all spoken about Pessy, probably Kenny Jackett before then when he was at the football club before he left, Joe Compa, Brad Shannon, Gareth, all the managers that have been involved in the recruitment. I found the tweet that I put out after the summer transfer window closed, asking the question, was everybody happy with our business? Not one person complained. So has our recruitment in the summer and in January been as bad as people think? I know hindsight's never wrong and I get that, but did we really moan when we saw these people coming in the summer? Did we moan when we signed the other three? So we'll start with the two loan deals in the summer was Travis Ackermere and Johnny Smith. I think we all agree we was happy with Johnny Smith, but he's injury prone.
Yeah, happy with Johnny Smith. I had no idea that he would constantly get injured. So on the basis of the signing alone, was very happy. Ackermere felt like a bit of a pointless one, to be honest, and I would say the same in January.
I think it was to cover Masterson, wasn't it, at the time? And then he's ended up probably playing a bit more because we're crap at the moment and Gareth Ainsworth's probably a bit scrambled, yeah. Reece, Lenny Serino on a permanent after a trial, Andy Smith after an impressive loan spell, Gareth McCleary, Sam Vokes and Seb Palmer Holden. Was there any of them that you looked at and went, no point to any of them at all?
No.
No, I agree.
I've written that down about both the summer and January, that I don't think our recruitment over the last two windows has been bad.
If I may, what I said on the last episode was I felt that we didn't sign a proper brick shithouse centre back. So I questioned whether Andy Smith was that sort of player. Mm-hmm. So I would make the argument that I would have signed a different centre back because I said it at the time. And striker wise, I made the argument that I don't think we've signed an absolute ruthless fox in the box like a Hale. I wasn't sure on Palmer Holden. I got Vokes. I thought that was a good signing. Said Palmer Holden wasn't sold on. And if I'm honest, I think he's useless.
I must admit, I've said over the last couple of weeks that he's nothing more than a work rate merchant. And I get that Gills fans want that. And again, I keep going back to the Dacky interview after Oldham. We don't ask for a lot as fans, Dacky said. If you play for the badge on the front more than the name on the back, if you work hard, if you run through brick walls and you care, you'll go a long way with Gillingham's supporter base. But as a striker, you need to find the back of the net. And to be fair, he was actually all right Saturday when he came on. It was probably one of his better games.
Do you know what I'd say in his defence as well? There ain't many times I've actually seen him play as a striker.
Plays as a winger now, doesn't he?
I just think he's a nothing player, mate. I've had this discussion with players, with people in other group chats, and he's just one of those lads that he runs the channels.
You've got other friends.
Yeah, how about that? Outside of running the channels, I don't really know what he does well. He's finished a couple of times quite well. He's got a little bit of pace. He can sometimes win a ball in the air. He's a little bit strong, but he's just one of those kind of like, if you're playing Football Manager, he's 10 at everything. Do you know what I mean? He's like,
is that out of 20? I don't play Football Manager.
Yeah. Out of 20, right, okay. He's a 10 all the way down the line. He's just average at everything. And as a striker, you can't have that, in my opinion. You've got to be really good at something.
Yeah, there's got to be a couple of attributes, like your finishing, like you say. Again, I agree with your point about Fox in the box. But again, hindsight's never wrong and that type of thing. But in terms of where we've been with previous windows, we remember going back a couple of summers and we had to wait for the transfer window to be virtually shut. And then there was a training session and Macaulay Bond got spotted. It felt like after we'd wasted a whole 2 months of Alfie May. I agree with Reece. I thought the recruitment in January and the summer was decent compared to previous windows. And I know it comes from a low bar. Um, you can't legislate for injuries, can you? I get there's a risk when you buy veterans, Vokes, McCleary, and that type of thing. But Johnny
There
Smith was
must
a
be data. There must be data on it though.
oh, there's got to be data on it. I get that, but sometimes you have to just take the risk, don't you, budget wise and that type of thing. Um, and January, I thought they were free signings that would improve us. I always say if you're going to go and spend money in January, you're buying people to start games because you're trying to get from somewhere to somewhere higher up, whether that's from bottom three, bottom four, bottom of the league, like we were doing in 2023 to get yourselves out of trouble. Or I don't know where we were. What was we? Probably 11th, 12th when the January window was going on. We were still talking about the top seven. So Beckles probably falls into that category, experienced, dominant
Paper,
centre half.
yeah, not been
Um,
great, but on paper, it looked good.
I thought he'd been fine until Saturday, and then that was probably the worst defensive pairing partnership performance I've seen from a pair of Gillingham centre backs in a long, long time. That was
Was it Titus Bramble, John Allen Boom song to the
oh,
League Two territory?
it made them two look like Desai and Laurent Blanc. To be quite fair, it was it weren't the best. We'll leave it there. Ronan Howe, Fox in the box. You've already mentioned it. We thought he was going to be that. We keep playing him out of position. Cameron Antwi, we've not really seen, have we? But
Don't really
there
get
was
that, to be honest. I don't get why he's not starting him over that midfield at the moment. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. It sounds like he's going to start him in the next game based on the interview he did the other day, Ainsworth. He said he's due a start. That was his words. So I'd like to see how he gets on. But
well, yeah, because it doesn't give you much confidence in ability if you can't get in the centre midfield after the team's put in that performance last Saturday, does it?
do you know what, mate? I think with transfers, like we all sit here and go, oh yeah, they're good signings, or we think they're good signings. It's part of the inherent nature of liking the fact we've signed people and not wanting to be negative from the off.
Mhm.
That's part of it, I think, to be honest. So I think you're naturally going to be positive about every signing you make, to be honest. If we was to be really ultra critical, Ronan Howe, there's no criticism for me other than the fact we're playing him out of position.
Yep.
Beckles, not as big a centre back as I would like, and getting on a bit.
But I'd won this league a couple of years ago.
Exactly. And then Antwi, I feel like his stats don't really look that amazing versus, other midfielders possibly in the league. It feels like we've just signed him off the back of him scoring against us at Priestfield. That's just the ultra negative vibe. The positive vibe is he's pretty young, looks like a decent enough footballer. And he looks like a bit more mobile than a lot of the other lads in that
I think
squad.
Ainsworth has come out in the press and said that he sees him as more of a project signing, Reece, which I don't agree with in January. I think you should be buying people to improve your starting 11 straight away. But if that's the case, then we might see the best of him next season.
Or he may be a Combeni.
That could
I
happen.
forgot about him. No, it's difficult when assessing the summer because I'm with you, Jack. Beckles ticked boxes that we'd been crying out for a long time in the sense of he was experienced, he's been around the block, he should be quite physically dominant. But do you know what? And do you know what it was? And I shouldn't judge people off just one game of football, but I thought about the fact Orient aren't pulling up any trees in League One, and they're willing to let him go. And I just couldn't get the game against us out of my head when the floodlights went out, and he got sent off after about 10 minutes.
There was one before that for Crewe where he gave the ball to Jordan Graham twice in the COVID season as well.
And I was just like, I get that he's experienced, he's coming in as that. Hopefully, should be a leader in it, but I just wasn't sure. But like you say, he'd been all right up until the weekend. He's a bit like Zakawani in the sense that sort of good at what he does, but also quite frustrating at the times that his one move is everything will be cleared or headed out for a throw-in, regardless of whether he's got time or not, which is a little bit frustrating at times, but I understand it as part of the thing. And the good thing was with Hale, not just the fact that Hale's coming in, he looks a decent player, but it was us finally breaking out of that shadow of not wanting to just push that boat out a little bit to get our man. Because like you say, with May was the extreme example that we'd go through windows getting linked with players for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and then we don't sign them, and then we end up with some dross as a replacement. Whereas it come out early in the window, we was interested in Hale. It come out that with our bids rejected a couple of times, but we obviously see him as the right man going forward, and we just push that boat out a little bit more to make sure we get him in. And like you say, whether he's playing out of position or that's up for debate. Angel says he can play from the side, and to be fair, whether he's playing, and to be fair, I don't think he's playing as a winger. I think he's naturally.
I get that, yeah.
But despite that, he's still had a lot of good chances. He scored a couple of good goals. He still looks a threat every game. So it's not like we've spent all this money on him, and we're completely wasting him, and he doesn't look like he's worth £250,000. I still think he's looked, bar Dack, he's looked our best player in all the games he's played. So, but yeah, that was for me was the big change in January. That it was good to see us take that step, because I get that you don't want to have your pants pulled down all the times, but unfortunately, the way football is now, sometimes you do just have to pay that little bit more and do what you have to do in order to get your man in.
Yeah, for a striker. I'd look at that squad and say, if we get to the summer, and we're going to come on to this in a bit, right? But if you look at the players we would let go in the summer, the potentials of like your Ogies, your Andrews, whoever they may be, I don't know who's out of contract, you'll tell us, mate, right? But would you bring in Howell in over some of the lads you'd let go? Yes. Would you bring Beckles in over some of the defenders you'd let go? Yes. Would you bring Antwi in over some of the midfielders you'd let go? Probably yes. So I would say we have improved versus the caliber of the squad already.
That goes back to the debate we had in the summer, doesn't it? Because obviously I was in the camp of not letting Joe Bode go. I thought he should have stayed for another season, but I think we all agreed that when we sold him and then we got Gareth McCleary in, we said that we was in a better place in terms of ability, experience, game winning moments potentially, and we've seen that from McCleary. Unfortunately, he's another one that's just not been on the pitch enough, but he still had quite a few moments where he's earned us points. 2 assists at Shrewsbury, I think it was, for the own goal, and then Nevitt, Stonewall penalty at Bromley. Surely there's no Bromley fans watching, so I can get away with that. Came on off the bench against Newport at home, goal and an assist. So that leads us on to the next point. It's like Jack's got notes. It's like I told him what we're going to talk about. Out of contract players. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I've done senior pros. I'm not including the likes of Logan Dobbs, Stan Skipper and all that type of thing, because I think it's the same conversation we have every year. They're very low risk, so it doesn't make a great deal of difference whether we do or we don't. But let's go through it in number order. Reece, we'll come to you. Jack's had his say. Gives him more time to talk about the factory later in the show. So I'm going to give you 3 options. I'm going to name a player. You go keep, release, or 50-50. Reece, Glenn Morris.
Release.
No, Glenn is the player we're talking about. Jack.
That is Glenn, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was in there. Yeah.
I'm taller than him. No, I'd release him, mate. I would have kept him last season when we went through this last year. He's become a little bit of a liability this season, to be honest, and he's getting on. We could do with replacing him.
He does that thing that I hate modern goalkeepers doing now. Just taking timeouts in the game every 20 minutes. Does my head in.
Do you know what Boz said to me at 2-0 when the second goal went on Saturday? He went, I bet Morris don't sit there for 10 minutes twice today. I'm going to agree. I love Glenn Morris. I think he's been a great servant for the football club.
No, he has.
Similarly to other players that we're going to get on to. Has he ever been more than a mid-table League Two number one? I don't think he has, and I mean that with the utmost respect. The last time he was here, he was in League One. He was back up to Stuart Nelson. Great servant. Time to move on, I think. Release. Max Clark, Jack.
Release.
Reece. Go on. Expand.
I was going to say, right, on his day he can be good enough, but he doesn't always have his day. He has a lot of off days. And for me, he doesn't have the physical attributes of what I'd want for a fullback, a modern day fullback.
Fair enough.
So you've thrown the third option to the mix to put spanner. I'd put down release.
Oh, so you just wanted release or keep. I'm so sorry for ruining your notes.
Well,
if you're the manager, you've got to do one of them too, right?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, so be the manager.
The fact you're thinking about it means release.
On the basis that I think both he and Hutton are average League Two fullbacks, and on the basis that Hutton's still under contract, I would probably still side with release and change up on that side.
I honestly believe Chirino, and this may be going to be one on the list, mate. I think Chirino's played better than him. Might be a controversial statement. We've looked the more threatening in games with Chirino as left back.
he just gets booked every time he plays, though, doesn't he? And I think a part of the problem is I don't know if Ainsworth can trust him. That's the thing, because he doesn't look like he's got talent going forward. And I think if you wanted to play back three, I think he'd be a really good wing back.
I was going to say,
But
as a wing back, I think he's better. But there's that naivety because he's not played many football games.
Well, if only we played 5-3-2, eh?
well, we did until people moaned about it.
I am going to be different to you two, and I've said I would keep Max Clark. I said it at the start of the show. I think he's one of those that's been here for a while that's the least of the problems. I don't think you'll find, I'm not going to say better left backs, but defensively, that's not been our issue over this period of time on the whole. I know we've been a bit suspect recently, and he's played a part in that. I get that entirely, but I don't think you'll find many more consistent fullbacks that just do exactly what they say on the tin. And he's got 10 goal contributions this season as well. So he offers something going the other way. He's got 7 assists. So I do think that there is something there. People might go, well, they're set plays or he's taken penalties. Still a goal. Goal's a goal. You don't get bonus points. You don't get artistic license like gymnastics. So we had 2 release and a keep there.
He's the most difficult release of the ones that I'd release. He's the one that I'd say release that I'm not 100% sure on.
I think we should roll. I think we should roll the dice. Try and find someone better. There's enough baggage there now that it's time to maybe let him go. You look at the other day.
No, I get that because I'm slightly hypocritical by saying the players are the problem, and then I'm saying we've got to keep one that's been here since 2023. So I understand that. But financially, can we release every single one of these out of contract players? I don't think so. So I think there's going to be some that we have to keep.
I can't answer that.
No, we can't for sure. We're just estimating.
Oh, yeah. Carry on.
Conor Masterson.
Keep him.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Keep him. I would. Well, this is very dependent on it. I would offer him the exact same deal he was on this season for one more, and just hope that he's just had a bad year with injuries. I think the upside to if you have a fit Conor Masterson for a season outweighs the risk of keeping him and him having another injury hit campaign. I think we're a better team with him. He's of good age now, good reliable defender, good goal threat from set pieces. I get it's been a terrible season for him in terms of injuries. Whether it's a freak, unlucky year, whether it's just part of his makeup now remains to be seen. But I don't think with the season he's had, I don't think he will get offers from teams in the league above now. No. I would try and keep him and give him one more year.
Jack?
If he hadn't got injured this season, mate, I'd have said keep in the splittest of seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I'd release him on the basis that you can't trust he'll be fit enough next season.
Well, so we'll go for, we've got the perfect catcher. We've got a keeper, release and a 50-50. I've put 50-50 because I think he's only played probably 40-50% of the games over the last 2 seasons. So it's like signing Harry Kane, isn't it? But if you can't get him on the park, he's an absolute waste of time. And I still maintain the fact that we'd sign Harry Kane and he'd only score 4 goals in a season for us as well. But that's another story. Gareth McCleary. I'll go first on this one. Keep.
Yeah, keep.
I would release. I think he's been good enough at times, but he's nearly 40 and he's not fit enough. We could sign better. For the wages he's probably on, I feel like we could sign someone who's younger, got more resale value and is less injury prone.
I think we're going to agree on the next one. Armani Little.
I'd release, mate. The bloke's a grafter, which is a minimum you can ask for, but I don't think he's quite good enough. And I think he brings that midfield down in terms of creativity. So I think you roll the dice and find a midfielder like him in League Two at 10 a penny. You're not going to get loads worse than him, would be my summary. So
yeah, I said on social media, he works hard. I think he cares. He grafts.
I agree.
He tries his best every week. He's probably played injured at times, but it's no coincidence for me that we finished bottom half probably 2 seasons that he's been here, and Wimbledon got promoted the season he left them.
I agree. I would say we do actually, ironically, we look infinitely worse with him not on the pitch in terms of our effort, but that's it.
That's it. Is he a promotion-winning playoff contender team midfielder? For me, no.
No, I would agree.
Yeah, I would release him, and yeah, he's one of them players that, regardless of ability, he's really difficult to dislike. on the basis that
Yeah, I agree.
he probably covers more ground than anyone else on the pitch. And it's probably a little bit contradictory because we sort of say all the time, as long as you work hard, we'll give you a pass. But I think there are positions on a pitch where you have to be able to do a little bit more. And for me, it's the fact as well that if we're going to have a serious rebuild in the summer, we cannot keep all three of Coleman, McKenzie, and Little.
I think
And
Ainsworth keeps him, by the way.
Two of them are, and two of them
the
are
other
under
two are
contract.
under contract.
I think Ainsworth keeps Little, though, by the way.
Oh, I think he probably does because I think he likes him. But this is our show and we can do what we want.
Yeah.
This is our Football Manager. 10 out of 20, everything. Is that what we're saying?
He's a 10 out of 20 as well.
I'm learning. I'm learning.
He is.
Right. I think the next four are pretty straightforward. So I'm not going to go into too much depth on them. Josh Andrews, Johnny Williams, Aaron Rowe, Marcus Wiley. Is it all four release?
Rowe's the only one with maybe a mild question mark. The rest, yes.
Yeah, I'd release all four. And I will say a bit about Johnny Williams.
Oh, yeah, he's your favourite player. I forgot because you wrote him more than George Lapsley.
I would say, I'm going to, like I say, I thought the summer and January had been okay, so I'm going to exclude that. But in terms of the general way we've recruited in recent years, I would say he is the biggest indictment of that and the worst signing that we've made in that time. Not so much in terms of ability, but it always felt at the time that we signed him purely on the basis to take him away from a potential rival, probably been the highest paid player at the club for the last 3 years and just has not produced remotely. Not remotely. So he's not the worst player we've had in the last 3 years, but for me, for probably pound for pound for the wages he's had, I think he's been the worst signing we've made in the last 3 years.
Yeah, there's a decent set of contenders there, though. To be fair, I don't know if I'd agree with that. I'd have to look at the others and what they're being paid, but he is up there. But that could be many of them.
Sam Vokes.
I'd release him.
I did that. You both said it at the same time. I didn't catch either of them. Jack.
Keep.
I've said keep.
I'd release him.
I think he's a decent option off the bench. He's experienced enough that he's wily in games to help us get over the line or get back into a game. And I feel like you do need at least one decent big man in a squad. And if we're letting Andrews go, I'm not convinced we'd find someone that much better.
And also, I think the caveat to me keeping him as well is we have to remember he didn't get a pre-season with us, which I know we said he was better at the start of the season, and he's not probably been as good as we'd hoped, but I think it'd be nice if we gave him, nice, I'm not doing it out of sentimentality, but I think you've got to give him the benefit of a proper pre-season and then see how he goes next year. So yeah, I'd keep him. And again, to say what Jack said, if you release him one, you've got one ready-made. He's not going to play every game. He's not going to play 90 minutes, but I think he'd be great around the dressing room like Dack is. So I'd keep Sam Vokes.
He is a tricky one because I do like him, and I've seen people in recent weeks say that he's no better than Andrews, which clearly I don't know what to say to people that think that. At least Vokes can trap the ball. It's just knowing that Ainsworth loves his target man. He loves playing with one. I would worry that we would end up going to the season and he's the number one option to be seen as that type when we know he hasn't got that in him to play 90 minutes every week. He's not one that if the retainers come out and we'd offered him the contract, I wouldn't be disappointed with that. But I don't know.
He probably falls into that bracket regardless where he comes out on the retained release list, doesn't he? I think.
Yeah.
Me and Jack are saying keep Jack, but if we get the retained list in May and it says he's not signing, we're not going to go, oh no, it's like the worst thing in the world.
Wouldn't be devastated. He's got good experience. He's got good qualities, and if we can get him on a decent enough wage, it's a decent player for the level.
The question I would probably ask, and obviously he's been a better player in his career. It's just the fact of his age now, and especially in terms of his mobility as well. Does he give us an awful lot more than Hawkins gave us? And we released him a year ago.
I
think he's got more of a finishing threat than Hawkins. If Vokes was one-on-one with a keeper, I'd trust him to bury it.
When do we create one-on-ones though?
No, that's true. Well, that's not his fault. But
so then, if we sign a brand new midfield, you're going to say he's going to get 25 goals a season next then, Reece, aren't you? Because we're going to have all these ball playing, technically brilliant wingers and creative midfielders. So you've just talked yourself into it.
I'm fine keeping.
You're so easily swayed. You'll be on the recruitment team.
Let's keep Williams as well. If you make an argument for it, I'll change my mind.
Right, next three. Are we all in agreement? Elliot, Nevitt, Ewan Williams, and Shadogi. Are we all releasing?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll drive Nevitt to wherever he ends up.
Well, I'll probably pass you on the motorway with Shadogi on the back seat. So
yeah, they're good lads. I
feel for you. I feel for you and Williams, and we are only jesting when we some of these comments, so don't be offended. But I feel for you and Williams because I think Reece mentioned it in previous episodes. You and me as well, Jackie. I think we signed him because we weren't sure whether Dacky was going to sign, and then Dacky came in, and then obviously he stayed on, and he's played well. And the fact that he just can't get through a summer without picking up a huge injury.
Pointless signing, pointless contract extension. One of the biggest head scratcher signings in a long time for us, really. If I'm honest, it was the sort of lad that we should have given him like a 3-month short-term contract when we signed him last season.
If he was a signing that we made when we first come down, I could have understood it because that's the type of signing, the vibe he gives me, that he's like, there's better out there, but we can't afford them. That's what it felt like.
He's a scally signing.
Yeah, if we'd signed him with that 22-23 and we had him playing behind Mandron with Cashkit and Green, I don't think he'd have looked out of place.
No, I agree. He's a scally signing, mate, and the fact we re-signed him is the biggest. You can understand someone making a bad choice signing someone, but to give him a new contract, that for me was one where you look at Ainsworth this summer. I worry how ruthless he's going to be with some of the decisions he makes with the likes of, say, Ewan Williams. How we got a new contract, I've no idea.
I don't mean that in terms of ability. I think there is ability there with Ewan, and again, he is young and he could improve. But I just mean he sort of falls into that bracket as like a last resort signing, doesn't he, Reece?
Yeah.
And I'm with Jack. I was very surprised that he was offered a contract. But then it also comes back to, like I said, that we were unbeaten. Ainsworth probably felt we looked in a good place. Momentum was good. He probably didn't want to disrupt the status quo too much, which is probably why he kept a lot. And we didn't sign many, like for a summer window, we didn't sign that many last summer, did we really? What were we talking, 4 permanents, was it?
1, 2, 3, 5 permanents, 2. Sereno, Smith, McCleary, Palmer,
and Smith was already here.
But Smith was already here, so
essentially
technically
4
new signings.
It's not a lot for a summer. But like we sort of touched on, I think Ainsworth would have learned a lot more about these players over the last 12 months. And I do expect it will not look quite so long, the actual contracts list this summer.
No, I don't think you're right. Well, we've got 3 left. Bradley Dack, keep.
Yeah, easiest one of the lot.
Yeah, Jake Turner, release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's an okay League Two goalkeeper, to be fair, but could I see him playing every week in a team that would get promoted from this league? I'm not convinced. I think he gets a hard time. I don't think he's as bad as people say he is.
No, I totally agree.
I think it's time to look elsewhere.
And he probably wants to go and play somewhere as well. So it probably makes sense for us as a football club and a fan base, and him as a footballer, to go out and play.
If we were doing a non-league podcast here and we were Gillingham were in the conference, and you pose that same thing there of would he be good enough to get us out of the conference? I don't think he'd be good enough as a conference keeper, to be honest. As a top level conference keeper, he's got too many deficiencies for me. We need a rock solid number 1 next year, and it's not Morris or Turner.
But I think that's fair enough. Like I say, and we're at the point in time, aren't we, with a lot of them where it's just been too long and there's been no change. So it's best for everybody. Last one, Lenny Sereno.
I'm releasing.
On the basis of me giving Clark a boot, I'd keep Sereno. I think we could sign another left back conceivably, as long as he doesn't mind being a rotation option. I think he's a good enough player to give another 1-year deal. It'd be very cheap. He's got attributes I like. I think it's a low risk renewal.
That's why I'd keep him, because I think he's not ready to be a number 1 left back just yet. He's got that ability to play further forward if we play a back 3.
But to the point,
I personally wouldn't be. If we've got them 2 as options at left back next season, I wouldn't be disappointed. And I understand I'm probably in the minority.
So at the point earlier, though, the fact that I'm saying I would start Chirino potentially over Clark is the reason why I'd get rid of Clark.
And I'd release Sereno. Not I like what I've seen of him, but I just get the fact, why haven't we seen him? You know, if we've not been playing well, he's picked it up again a little bit recently, but Clark went through a period a few weeks ago where he had a couple of really bad games back to back. He still didn't get a look in. So
is he injured though?
He was for a bit, yeah.
He's been back in training for a couple of weeks, I think, at least now, yeah.
So you say, Jack, about he'd be a decent rotation option. I'd agree with that, but it doesn't seem like
Ainsworth
wants to rotate him in. So if he's not going to play him,
do we think maybe Ainsworth's protecting him because we're not playing well and he hasn't had a lot of ssenior football? Would that be
possibly
a sensible question?
Yeah,
possibly.
I think so.
I do have him from time
to
time.
But I do actually agree with sort of yours. Regardless of which one, I wouldn't mind if we kept one of Clark or Sereno, but I wouldn't keep them both.
See, I'd keep them both, and I'll stand by that. In the same way that if Gareth Ainsworth, like Reece mentioned, can bring in, I don't know, it's probably what we're looking. He's probably going to have to bring in at 6-8 signings, isn't he?
Well, if you go by my list, I think I've kept
about 35 by Jack's list. Yeah,
you can tell I'm a manager now, right?
Have interest, Jack. On a little side note, on top of that, would you get rid of any of the ones that are still under contract if you could?
All right, who are they? Matt, you got a list here, mate?
I'll go it through you because it's just I've done it in number order. So Ramo Hutton's got another year.
I'd get rid of him.
3, 4, Andy Smith. I think a year's too soon.
I wouldn't have signed him to begin with, mate. So I would.
I like Smith, but I think he's had a tough time and he needs to develop because he's come up against some brutish centre halves recently. He's been absolutely schooled by Cheek and by Fondot, not Fondot, by who was it recently? Oh, he was poor at Chesterfield, and they don't even play a brutish centre forward. To be fair,
yeah, I have noticed that he struggles a lot more in games where we are playing up against a.
Do we think he's more suited to a back three as well?
Yes, yeah, 100%.
Him or Masterson can be that one that steps out, and you've still got enough protection. So I think in a 3 he's fine.
Let's go back to Hutton, mate. On too much wages and doesn't turn up enough in games for it to keep him would be my summary.
That's fair enough. Right, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm 6. Ethan Coleman.
Yeah, I'd keep him. Just.
I like Ethan. I'm a big fan of Ethan.
I'm fine with Coleman.
I know we're in the minority. I think they're Reece, aren't we? In terms of
I'll be in the minority in one of the others.
One person's counter argument about playing Ethan Coleman as a holding midfielder to me the other day. I can't remember what social media platform it was. Well, he plays too deep.
That's his job.
Is that Roy Keane?
It weren't as good as last time, was it?
That was shocking. And then I remembered you did it on the last episode. That was appalling. Where do we get to? Done 9, 10, 11. Seb Palmer Holden.
Get rid of him. I don't think anyone would take him.
I feel harsh saying it, but at the end of the day, he scored 3 goals. No one's going to touch him with a barge pole, are they? Robbie McKenzie.
Loan him out. Oh, McKenzie. I'd keep McKenzie, mate. He's a rotation option for centre back and for defensive mid. But then would he start every game?
See, McKenzie's my unpopular opinion that if he was out of contract this summer, I'd be getting rid of him. I do get that he is, and it's probably not even so much because of him. It's the way we probably get sucked into using that. Rob McKenzie is an ideal player to have in your squad, in the fact that he can go and do a job in multiple positions. But it probably says a lot of the way we've been the last couple of years, that a lot of people look at McKenzie as one of our best players and a sort of a nailed-on fixture in the team sheet, whereas I don't think, even at League Two level, he is a good enough footballer to be the first choice week in, week out in any position. And if you think back to the year we got relegated, he chose to leave. No one better than us took him.
That's a fair point. Yeah, because he thought he was going to get a League One move, I think was the rumour at the time, didn't he? So
decent squad player, useful to have around. But if next season starts and Robin McKenzie is starting every week for us, I'd be a little bit concerned.
I think that's where I'd have him as a squad. I've got no issue in being a squad player because I think you need that sort of thing. You need that type of player.
On the basis of him being a squad player and the fact he's not out of contract, I probably would keep him. But on the
I wouldn't look to ship him out of his contract now. No, but
right, who else we got?
just the newbies, isn't it? I think.
Nelson Kumbeni.
Yeah,
Again, it's the same as
Hardly seen
Seven.
him.
I don't think we can make a judgment, can we? He plays
He had,
45
I think
minutes.
he had a. Did he have a? He had a good half hour when he come on at Bristol Rovers, I think, and I don't think we've seen him since.
I thought he
Well,
started that
he's
day.
been
Did he start? He might
he's
have
been
done. Yeah,
injured.
he did. Yeah, you're right. He
I
did,
think
and
he
he was quite
started and
good.
was
Yeah, he
very
was
good,
quite
yeah. And he
good.
was decent, I think,
Yeah.
Port Vale last game of last season as well. But again, he plays a couple of weeks and then his arm falls off or his leg falls off and we don't see him for months at a time. But same as Seb Palmer Olden, isn't it? No one's going to touch him at the moment, so he's our player. Sam Gale, nice and easy to finish on.
Well, okay, I'd keep him, but if someone comes in with a large bid, I would get rid of him. Why not? Take the money.
How large?
Well,
Enough to
don't
pay
know.
for the self-service pumps? He's
He
gone.
stole it off me again. I don't know. I don't know what the value of a good centre back is these days. If we get a good valuation, then I would let him go with a sell-on fee. I think he has enough shaky games that I wouldn't be against him leaving. I love the fact he's our guy. He's from the area, etc., and he's come through our youth team. But I think we look a little bit favourably on him because of that fact. If he wasn't through our youth team, I don't think he's an amazing centre back for the level. So therefore, if we get a silly offer with a sell-on fee, I'd take it.
Reece, I tend to disagree on that a little bit. I think Jack's been a bit harsh on him there. I'm not going to lie.
I think the fact that we got him on an extended contract fairly recently, didn't we? I think we hold all the cards there.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think one more year would be the right thing for him, especially obviously seeing. And to be admittedly, I've never seen him as anywhere near the same level as prospect as Bodé was, but obviously seeing what's happened with Bodé, he doesn't want to make the jump too soon. So I think another year anyway. But obviously, if someone goes, we'll give you £2 million for him, then obviously it's a conversation that needs to be had.
Oh yeah, two million would be a ridiculous amount.
I'd be tempted to say £500,000.
Well, I don't know if I would for £500,000. A mil, maybe half. I don't know. Half a mil don't seem like very much anymore.
I think based on age, he's worth more than $500,000 a potential ceiling.
Yeah, in the modern market, I think he probably is.
I'm not sure, mate. I think he's worth $500,000 with a very large sell-on fee. Is my gut feel of what people would be prepared to pay.
Well, was the rumour that we paid a couple of $100,000 for Palmer Holden?
150K, I heard you.
So what does that make? What does it make Gale worth then, Jack? About
and then it was rumoured that Bodé went for what 300. Bodé was rumoured to be 250, 300K.
Exactly.
I think there's a higher ceiling for Gale than there is for Joe Bodé.
Well, I suppose the point is that Bodé went as a striker to a League One team, and he only went for $300,000. So I'm not convinced there's loads more in a centre back, mate. To be honest, like people don't pay massive fees for.
Yeah, but I think he went as a winger, so there's loads more we can get out of it. $5 million. There you go.
I should add, Seb Palmer Holden, right? As far as I remember from the interview from Ainsworth, he said that was a recommendation from recruitment.
Yeah, isn't that one? Right. He said he was already on the radar and he liked him. Yes, I think you're correct. We've already spoke about it.
150 grand. Jesus Christ.
Could have had a complete refit in the factory, couldn't you?
They could have made the self-service pumps.
Hey, you could have had one at your seat. You could have one in your seat in the Raynham end as well for that money.
We could have all had a self-service pump. That sounds like something else.
Yeah, we're not going there. Kids might be watching. Let's end on a positive note because we said this wasn't going to take as long. We said this wasn't going to be as long tonight. There is one. The form of Bradley Dack this season, I think, has been outstanding, and it's been great because if we go back a decade, we thought he was leaving. We go back 9 years, he did leave. We all thought he was going to go play top-end championship, which he did. We all thought potentially he'd go to the Premier League, and then he had the 2 knee injuries. And understandably, we don't get Bradley Dack if he doesn't have said knee injuries. We didn't see a lot of him last season, but this year,
what's his stats this year, mate?
I can't see anyone else winning Player of the Year, even if someone has a good end to the season. He's played 30 games this season in League Two. He started 23 times, 63 minutes per game, 7 goals, which come 1 every 270 minutes, which is 1 every 3 games, so 15 a season. 1 assist, 71% pass completion, 27 tackles, 81 ball recoveries, 33 clearances, and 12 interceptions. Is that enough?
I was just looking for goals and assists, but I'll take the rest, mate.
There we go.
I would keep him. I think he's been our standout player. He will win Player of the Year. I'd give him the captaincy next season. And the fact that he's done this, and he probably won't want us to talk about this, but the fact he's done it whilst splitting up from his missus shows the character of the bloke, really, to be honest.
Yeah, to even still be out there on the football pitch at the moment and in a difficult team as well at the moment. So you could say there's a case to go, we're not playing well. I've got stuff going on in my personal life. I could sack it off and have a couple of weeks away from it, out of the spotlight. So it shows everything about the character of the man.
Yeah, but to be fair, Jack's like sort of it's as if you're reading what I've got written down. I've literally put he's been our player of the year quite comfortably. Best thing about him this season has been his availability. 30 out of 32 league games he's played in, which I don't think anyone would have foreseen coming, sort of based on last season. 7 goals in 30 for a player that isn't a striker, I think, is a very, very good return.
Especially for us.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal for us.
And you just watch him play, and there was one ball on Saturday as well. His footballing brain is a step ahead of most players at this level. And unfortunately, we probably don't have enough players that
I was going to say it becomes a hindrance. It becomes a hindrance sometimes.
He can see passes that. Well, he can make passes that other people in the team can only dream of even seeing, let alone executing. And yeah, if sort of 6 months ago, I'd have always been in agreement of keeping him beyond this season era, but the captaincy I'd have been a little bit unsure, dependent on how his availability played out. But he's probably gonna play 40 times in a 46 game campaign this season. So I don't see why he couldn't be the captain next season, to be honest.
Yeah, the only thing that we've got is a lot of Tuesday games coming up between now and the end of the season, so there might be a bit of rotation. But yeah, I mean, even if he gets to 35 games, it's compared to what did he start 5 out of 46 last season? I know he said he was fit for a period of that, and I think he fell out with John Coleman. But yeah, he's been outstanding. I think he's put to bed. I'm not going to say it because I'll end up jinxing it. I'm not saying it. Carry on. Someone just say something.
I do find it interesting that I've seen people suggest that. I'm not seeing people say he's a bad player. No one said he's a bad player, but I've seen people suggest that because he isn't the most mobile player, which I don't think he's immobile. He's just not as mobile as he was 10 years ago. But people say he's the problem in our team, not from an ability point of view, but because of his profile. I don't buy it.
No, and on a mobility standpoint as well, there are times where he probably doesn't quite keep up with play as well as he could, but his brain's good enough to mitigate that. And do you know what? In a lot of games, like Oldham, for instance, drops back to basically become a defensive midfielder because he's chasing the game so much. So that probably doesn't help him either. So that shows the graft and the attitude of him is he wants to get on the ball at every turn. And it means he ends up dropping back and then he's not quite in the position he needs to be. He also turns into a League Two Harry Kane in that sense, just chasing the ball all the time and trying to make things happen.
Yeah, I think you can tell how well or well bad we're playing as a team, because where you can see Dacky on the pitch, particularly early in games, like you say, if we're not at it, he's on the edge of his own D. Whereas if we're playing,
at least he's doing that. At least he's doing that, mate. At least he's taking the game.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and that's what we want. And you need him on the ball all the time. And I think next season, barring anything happening between now and the summer, you've got to build your team around Bradley Dack again, because we'd be a far worse team.
He's only 33, is he?
I don't think he's that, is he?
32. I think he's just turned 32. I think so. He's
got 2-3 more years in him, in my opinion.
I think so. Yeah, certainly in League Two level. I think he could probably play League One. Never. Whether that's with us or someone else, I don't know. But I think ability, like he was never. The good thing for Dack is he was never out and out quick. You're not talking about like a Theo Walcott type of pace. He's more like a Teddy Sheringham mould, where he gains the extra yard because his brain's so quick. So I don't think it's hindered him so much now that he's got himself match fit. Whereas if he'd been like a, afterburners type winger that had 2 ACLs, I think he'd have been a much worse version of himself. But I think he's been first class, and it's been great to see him back and having a positive impact.
Yeah, I think just like in terms of looking towards next season and people's decisions on what they think we should do with him, I just think if you look at it and think, if we was to let say he scores another couple before the end of the season, he ends up with nine goals from midfield this season. How much would that cost us to replace in the summer if we lost him? If we wanted to go and buy a midfield player?
Oh, loads.
That for me is why it's so obvious that he shouldn't go anywhere.
So for me, if they've got anything about them, the recruitment team, the marketing team, and you want to increase or improve the mood, I'd get his deal done now.
I think it should have been done before now. I've said this a couple of times.
Just get it done and give us something to cheer and cling on to, because it's been rubbish for ages. That would give us something to. It'll probably happen soon, and it'll probably coincide with season ticket prices being released, I'd imagine. But yeah, I'd get it done now and announce it as soon as possible because we need something to cheer us up, don't we? Essentially, gentlemen, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much. That weren't that long, was it? We said hour and a
Just the hour and a half. Yeah.
half. We
If
played for
anyone's still
90 minutes.
if
We
anyone's
played
still
for 90
watching,
minutes. No, as always, I appreciate Jack and Reece's company and knowledge because this show wouldn't be anything without the pair of them. So thank you to both of them. Thank you if you are still watching at this point. Please hit that like button. There is this new thing called hype. I don't really understand what it does, but apparently it bumps the channel higher up because we're little in the grand scheme of things. So if you could do that, that'd be absolutely great. If you're new, if you just like EFL, oh, excuse me, or League Two, please consider pressing subscribe. Yes, myself, Nick, and Ava are mental. We will be at Barrow at the weekend. But until then, enjoy the rest of your week. And most importantly, up the Gills.